Hi, Anna Brooks here. Welcome to today's audio blog, My Year Without Junk Food. You may have read my brutally honest story of my binge eating years, and I often get asked what the first thing that started my recovery. The truth is, there is never one thing. Just like a recovering addict of any type, you can have 100 wake-up moments where you're sure that you're done for good, only to fall back into old patterns once more. But there was definitely a very decisive choice that I made that started my road to recovery. This was a decision that came to be known to everyone around me as my year without junk. I started it on the 1st of July 2011 to coincide with the start of the new financial year, and the idea was to cut out all the foods that were my worst triggers. This was very specific. The Big Four, otherwise known as McDonald's, KFC, Hungry Jack's and Red Rooster, anything deep fried or cold packet chips, donuts and cookies of any sort. Now, this might not sound like much, but it was the biggest portion of my daily food. Rarely a day passed without Macca's or KFC, hot chips were constant, and each trip to any food source resulted in more cookies or donuts. Yeah, I had issues. And for more info on why I was still a size 12 and not obese, I'll give you the link for my diary blog. So I knew I had to tackle the biggest problems all at once. I always knew how much smarter the disorder can be than me sometimes, so I had to trick it. And this was the trick. I told myself it is purely an exercise for 1 full year. Out of all the years I have left, what's one? At the end of the year, I could go back to eating everything and anything I want, and more on that later. The other trick that I could still have other food, chocolate, pizza, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I still had all those things, but they weren't my kryptonite, though they certainly featured a lot more once I said goodbye to the others. And so began my year without all the above foods. I felt ready. I kept repeating to myself that it's just 1 year. I told all my friends and family so that they didn't even bother offering it to me, and I carried on. Now, I wish I could tell you that this changed my life, that I lost the last 5-10 kilos and never looked back. But this is an honest story, the truth. And the truth is that it was hard. I developed a love for ice cream that I'd never had, purely because I couldn't have the cookies anymore. I craved hard. There was a night towards the 9-month mark where I panicked, drove through Macca's and ordered my old nemesis, the Big Mac, only to park, burst into tears and throw it out because I knew I'd come too far. It wasn't even until after that I realized what this meant. I could have eaten it. No one would have seen, no one else would know. But instead, I went home, I told my partner about nearly caving, and he told me how proud he was. And it hit me. That was the first time I hadn't wanted to hide this disorder. It was always so private, no one could know about it, but this time I wanted to tell him. This disorder no longer had that special private place in my heart. I hated it and I wanted it gone. So did I do it? Well, yes. Yes, I did. I went a full year without those foods, and true to my word, on the start of the new financial year, I bought a Big Mac and I took it home. And in front of my best friend and partner, I bit into my first mouthful of the devil in over a year. And well, something unexpected happened. I threw up. Yup. I didn't even get through more than a couple of bites and up it came. My entire body was now rejecting this. And in that disgusting moment, the last year flashed before my eyes. And suddenly I remembered all the little moments that were signs I was changing and I hadn't even realized. Like those times around the month 4 that I drove past KFC or Macca's and felt sick to my stomach at the stench coming from them. Or how at about the 6-month mark, I had completely forgotten where those places were, having once been so aware of every single time I would pass one. Now I suddenly had no clue where the closest one was. And it all hit me like a ton of bricks. I had been a woman of my word. I could now eat all the junk I want. All the junk I want. And there it was. None of this junk was what I wanted anymore. Not only the thought, but the reality of eating this stuff made me throw up. That's not to say the occasional donut or cookie doesn't cross my path. It does. And I love a handful of hot chips on occasion, but I can truly say I've not had the fast four since that day the 1 year challenge started, and I don't miss them in the slightest. I've had friends ask me, but what do you do when there isn't anything at home and it's the only place that's open? And you know, in almost 3 years, that's never occurred to me. It's now longer than 3 years. Those places just don't even exist anymore. They are so far out of what I would ever want to eat that it's like knowing that the brothel is open at 2 a.m. when you're hungry. Yeah, it's open, but you'd never go there to get food and it just wouldn't occur to you. Simple as that. And you all know how I feel about what we have in life. It's what we settle for and we believe we deserve. I believe I deserve to nourish my body with vital, nutritious food, and that I'm worthy of the extra half hour that it takes me each week to prepare some of it, so I'm never in a situation where one of those places is the only option. Simple. Now time for some truth. Did I still binge sometimes after that? Yeah. Was it anywhere near as much? Not even close. Do I honestly not ever miss that food? Yes. God, yes. My journey to recovery from this took a little longer, and I slowly had to realize that there will never be such a thing as perfection. Expecting to never overeat again because I shouldn't, because it's a disorder, was stupid. We all overeat sometimes, at a family party, out celebrating at a restaurant, and you know what? It doesn't mean you have a disorder. So coping with the idea that I might occasionally have a bit more and not think I'm diving back into my disorder was a big challenge for me. But I got there. That year changed my life and made me aware of all that I'm capable of and all that my body naturally wants: to be loved, appreciated, and nurtured. Bye, guys.